Yo YouTube, this is 60 FPS Tech here, just checking in. I wanted to give you guys another quick tip. Now, there's an issue when you plug in a USB key that you formatted previously and you can't get all the storage back. Let's say that you made a Windows 10 install USB key or you made a Linux install USB key. If you ran any kind of special disk imaging / writing software on that USB key, it can be really difficult to get that storage back, and it's really inexplicable why you don't have it in the first place, because you can see here I've got a USB key plugged in. It's only got 24 kilobytes free of 2.25 megabytes. Now we know for a fact that USB keys do not come in sizes of 2.25 megabytes, so we know for a fact that there's an issue here with Windows, right? We know that this USB key has more space, and if we right click and format it, you can see that the capacity is wrong, right? This should be 128 gig because this is a 128 gig stick, but the current format or file system is fat, which is not the most important factor here, but most importantly, we don't have all the storage we need, right? Even if we format it, we try to format the disk, we get space back, but it's not the full drive, right? We have 2.25 megs, we can make a new file here, if that even works. It's so small, the partition, right? Anyway, so we know that there's an issue here. We don't know how to fix it, right? So what we need to do here is actually use a little utility called diskpart. So we'll go to the command prompt in Windows, and I always like to run this as an administrator. So we'll fire that up, and the program is called diskpart. All right, so we'll initialize that. This is the Windows 10 built-in disk partition / management software that works on the command line. All right, so we're going to do, the first command is going to be say list disk, and that will tell us all the disk drives that Windows 10 currently detects on the system. You can see here that there's two terabyte drives here, but when formatted, they're actually only 1.8 terabytes. You can see my Windows system drive here is 1 terabyte SSD, again partitioned down or formatted down to 931 gigs. And here's a 128 gig stick formatted down to 115 gigs. So again, it's really important that you know all the drives that are plugged into your computer and their sizes and capacities, so that you make sure you select just the USB stick here, because we don't want to wipe out any of your other data. This is a really low level program. We can do a lot of damage. So take a lot of care here selecting the right one. So we can see that what we need here is disk 3. So the command is select disk 3, right? And now we're working on the third disk with starting at a 0th index, so it's technically the 4th, right? And the command here is clean, right? Okay, so we got a small error there, access denied. Let's try again. Okay, so just had to make sure we close Windows Explorer because that was giving us a little bit of an issue. So now if we go to list disk, right, the asterisk is next to 3 because we still have it selected. But we're actually all done here. We can just do it again to make sure that it works without issue. Clean, right, just cleaned, perfect. So now we're good to go. So we've removed all of the special partitions that were previously formatted on the disk, on the USB key. And those partitions were preventing us from seeing, and from Windows seeing, the full size of the USB key, which is why we couldn't format it more than 2 megabytes. So the next thing we need to go to is actually the disk initializer program. We actually can't do a format inside this PC because this drive is completely uninitialized, which is different from reformatting it, right? Uninitialized drives are the way they come from the factory, and so we need to initialize them. And for that, we just type in disk management, and that will open up the visual disk manager GUI that's built into Windows 10. And now you can see that our drive is completely unallocated and ready to go. So we just right click, simple volume, hit next, next, assign a letter, G is fine. NTFS is fine if you're explicitly on Windows 10 or Windows 7 or anything in between, right? This is a Windows file system. That's what it stands for. exFAT is more universal. If you're going to be working with Apple devices, you should go with exFAT. But versus Windows, I have all Windows machines and Linux. Linux will also read NTFS, so that's fine. So we'll perform a quick format. Quick format means just erase the file header table, the master set of records that contains all the files, right? If you have a disk drive with 1,000 files and you delete the file table, when you reinitialize the file table next time, your new files will just overwrite the old ones on the disk. It's why delete operations are instantaneous on Windows, because the files are actually left on the disk. They're just unallocated, and then they're overwritten the next time that space is needed. So if you uncheck quick format, it will actually go through the whole drive and clear out all the files. We don't really need to do that. This is no security issues here. Hopefully this is your USB stick. There's no security implications of leaving files that are orphaned on the disk that will be recovered later. We're not worrying about any security issues right now. So that's what this check is. It's why it's checked by default. It's usually a very safe operation. So we'll just hit next, right? Now Windows will reinitialize our disk, and it's going to give us the full capacity back, right? Boom. So now we have new volume again, right? And this was our USB key with 2 megabytes, and now we have the full 115 gigs, right? So we got all of our space back, and we helped Windows realize that our USB stick was actually quite a lot bigger than it thought it was at first. So that's it. The video is already running a little bit longer than I wanted, but I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I hope this helps. This issue has bugged the hell out of me for so long until I finally realized what the underlying issue was with the multiple partitions on a USB stick, which are usually written by some kind of imaging software when you write like a system image like Windows or Linux to the USB stick, and you want to use it for regular purposes. After that, that's when you have this issue where you can't find all the storage, or Windows can't find all the storage, and then you just have a USB stick that's really small and pretty useless. So glad we got that figured out. And again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.